So have you heard that analogy, like people that go with the flow are like dead fish? Well, let's just take a look at that to understand what I've learned over time is all of my emotional triggers and reactions come from I'm not accepting what's happening around me. I want it to be different. And so let's explore the ways that we can understand that acceptance isn't resignation, it's actually empowering. Okay, so, I really want to start with the understanding of how we can get to acceptance for what is, as opposed to, you know, trying to state within ourselves that something is wrong and we have to make it right. And that is all boiling down to the fact that we get triggered into a lower dense emotion, that we're looking to change something externally to make the internal feeling go away. If we aren't getting that concept, then we're going to get stuck. And if we want to expand out of our current reality into better and feel better, because let's just keep it real, the reason we want our level up or expansion is so we can feel better. We think the having of things will make us feel better, and that's another way of looking at external rather than internal. And so the internal war is always what this channel is about. And I think understanding how we can learn acceptance through some mindset shifts can really help us understand that we're not just resigning to the crap of the world and not looking at injustice as injustice, because it might be, but it's just understanding that we have to accept because we don't really understand every single facet, and we are being triggered and instigating a lot of our own toxic spewing of emotions, psychic energy, and words for things that we're not accepting. And that is really something we can't control. The only thing we have control over is our part in it, and that missing element of the energy, the emotions, the toxic nature that we're triggering within ourselves is because of our lack of acceptance. And so acceptance is the path of least resistance. And let's just keep it real. We don't want to resist life because resistance is what sucks. Okay, so let's just kind of understand that acceptance is really just really participating in mindsets that this should be different. I'm all about let's just get to the nitty gritty, deep, rudimentary thing that we could look at in contrast, which would be resignation versus acceptance, or not allowing things like that. And what really is happening when we lack acceptance is, if we look at it from a mindset at the base level, is this should be different. Okay, so that's the opposite of acceptance. This should be different. And we do this in so many ways. We are consistently looking into the environment and saying, if only this were different, right? If only this were different. Why can't I make it different? And so I would like to use an example, story time. Let's use something that we can say, oh yeah, we're always doing this, because when we start to see that in ourselves, we can start shifting the mindset, which we'll get to at the end of the video. So stay till the end, please. But first we have to point out how we are super unconsciously doing this, and that is the resistance to life instead of acceptance. And that is what's making us feel icky inside. It's not the lack of this or the lack of that or the world's against me or any of that. It's just your vibrational standpoint. And at this stage in the game, we have to get to mastery if we want to feel better and have the life that we want. Key. Okay, so the example I would like to use is, if you see that you are consistently, oh, I missed that. If only I had been 1 minute sooner. And then we get triggered in ourselves and we're like, oh, stupid. Why'd you forget your water bottle? You would have been on time. That you need that 1 minute. And then we get the feelings of shame and guilt, lowest on the consciousness scale. Anger's down there too. And we get that going inside of ourselves. And because we don't like that, Our eternal state of being is at the lowest place, and our inherent nature is love. So we don't like it. So then we start to project it with our mind if nobody's there, or with our words if somebody is there. And so we could be in the car and we hit a train. And so we're like, and I'm from a town where there's nothing but trains, by the way. You should always leave early if you're from Waukesha, Wisconsin. So, but my point is that when you get hit this train, you get angry inside yourself and you're like, oh, if I would have just not forgot my water bottle, I would have been ahead of this train. And I'm talking about, we do this all the time. And this is showing us our lack of acceptance for what is. So then if nobody's in the car, then we start thinking and shaming ourselves and but if somebody's in the car, or if we can think of somebody at the house that caused us to be 2 steps behind, then we are sending that psychic energy to them, or we are sending our verbal energy to the person in the car. And most of the time it'll be like our kids, like, oh, you have to get your shit together. Oops. Sorry, YouTube. You have to get your stuff together so that we're not running late. Now, look, we're really going to be late. And dirt. And so what that all is at the rudimentary level is lack of acceptance. This shouldn't be happening. This should be different. But if we accepted it, there's so many people on the planet that can do that. And a lot of us that don't, we're just like, how can you just sit through this? Like, dead fish syndrome. Dead fish syndrome, right? And so, they just let people walk over them. They just this, they just that. It's just they don't have the emotional trigger and they're not reacting in a negative way. It doesn't mean that they're not changing things on the planet, because actually, from my viewpoint, when you understand energy, they're changing a lot more than you are, because they're staying in high vibrations. They're not being dictated by external circumstances to have that emotional immaturity, we'll call it. Let's just have some self-awareness, and projecting psychic and verbal energy all over the place. That's creating the toxicity in our environment that we're all picking up on, because we are in a fishbowl of one. And so there's the shit show. So this is super important, because our lack of acceptance is really what's keeping us from the inner peace that we so desire. And I'm going to tell you, you might feel very valid in this, but there's certain areas where you'll be like, yeah, I shouldn't have probably freaked out about the train. But the bigger issue is, hell yeah, fight the funk. Okay, so here's the thing. Acceptance and keeping your vibration in that high place with the mastery that we're going to try to achieve on this channel is actually the fast lane to any change, because then we're not spewing the negative energy. We're mastering our higher emotions, and that's what brings peace. Peace instigated in me, then I'm not passing toxicity on to my kid, and they're not going to school and passing on to their people. I'm passing peace to my kid, and my kid's passing peace, and that's the fishbowl we want to live in. The water is filled with peace. Okay, so we can catch this every which way we go, and that's the goal. So I want to help you by understanding, catch it. If it only were this way, oh, I got a parking ticket. If only I hadn't stopped for that latte, or it's just everywhere. That is showing us our lack of acceptance for what is. So now we get to the juicy part. How do we, now that we recognize that in ourselves, and we're going to start becoming more self-aware, and we're going to start chilling out and saying, okay, this is because I'm not accepting. I'm going to sit with this and not project it out, or not think it's somebody else, and connect all that and start mastering it. So it's always a mind shift away. Let's get to that. Okay, so most of my videos are really off the fly. I try to have an intention, a topic, and then I just kind of channel and go through insights that I've gotten through coaching and my own expansion, which was hellified journey for me. So it's not anything that I'm preaching to you to try to help you overcome that I haven't the hard way, because I didn't really have a lot of external teachers, let's just say it that way. So the thing that I wrote down though about this topic is judgment is a split in our consciousness. Our conscious energy causes that depletion in our power to actually create change in the matrix, because we're either instigating separation by our own judgment. Judgment is another word for separation. There's not a union of perfect oneness, that everything's happening for a good reason. If judgment is everything is bad, good, because our inherent nature is good. And then so when we're in judgment, we're going against our inherent nature, and then we bounce back and forth. And so acceptance is the more energy efficient path that actually constitutes real change. So this just came to me. The quote that I love about this is, be the change you wish to see. This right here is what that means. All right, so now we get to, how do we get the mindset shift that we stop getting triggered by everything that we think isn't going in our favor, isn't right, if it were just different. There is an easy, simple mindset that you can give to yourself that you can really get into this. And so I'd like to, just say that we have to start recognizing when we're saying the old thing, which is, oh, if only this were different, if I had just did this, if they just did that, being dictated by external forces and circumstances and people and the matrix to determine how we think, feel, and act. It's got to go away. And so we can change the mindset when we catch ourselves doing that to one simple phrase. And that phrase is, what is this meant for? What is the beauty in what this is for? What is this showing me? What does the divine want me to know about this? And so, again, at the base level, it's really just learning to accept. When you get to the harder things, like hard soul contracts, things like that, we could go into some pretty in-depth unconscious mindsets, but we're just going to focus on the one that we're doing daily. It's the minor little things that we're consistently doing this with, and then stop shaming ourselves and get into a new mindset. And I'm telling you, if you wake yourself up every time that you catch yourself doing that, if this were different, if he had did this different, if I'd left earlier, anything that you're wishing were different, to why is this happening for my good? You wake yourself up to chill the freak out and stop projecting and stop doing that mind stuff and energy and emotional stuff you're doing. And you wake yourself up to, oh, let me analyze this in a different way. Key. Because then you're shifting a whole pattern of mental and emotional energy that's been dominant on this planet and within your ancestry and within your own karmas. Missing the mark. And so then your mind shifts to, why would this be happening for me? So let's make some examples, like to understand that only God can judge, because God is the highest perspective, love. And if you look at everything in the world as love, oh, the train stopped me because there was a kid that was going to cross the street up there and I would have hit it. I mean, we don't really know. Only God knows the bigger purpose of the perfection of everything that's happening. So we want this mindset shift so that we're not triggered into thinking something bad is happening, because it's really never bad, even the ugliest stuff. But we don't want to work on the ugliest stuff. We want to work on the day-to-day so we can start shifting our mindsets and our emotional patterns within ourselves. And then we can collectively start facing those deeper, darker things that are happening in our environment. Because we don't change things through the lower emotions. Remember, the energy efficiency, the highest, is what will instigate the change. So let me make a story. Okay, so, and this is just like tainted in truth and tainted in, a story and, metaphor, just to help you engage your mind into understanding how we are so judgmental. And then we've created a thought system that withstands time, and it might not be the best thing for us. And this is how we start to instigate change. So let's just say there was a king in a kingdom, and he, was walking in the garden one day, and a cat just came up and clawed him in the face. And he was super upset. It hurt. Now he's embarrassed because he has to stand before his people. He has a scratch. He's all jacked up. So he's like ruminating. This just had been different. I shouldn't even went in the garden. I had stuff to do. Looks at his disciples and is like, why'd you let me go in the garden? You were supposed to remind me of this. Then he's like, screw cats. Cats are the enemy. Like, this cat has screwed up my life. So then he turns and says, kill all the cats in the kingdom. I want them all dead. Because that emotional judgment made him think, I'm going to fix this externally. So he had all the cats killed, and the next thing you knew, they were ridden with a plague. Mm-hmm. Not really putting together that this plague came because he messed up the ecosystem of the earth. And let's just start from the beginning. The cat scratch was, let's just say that the cat has certain enzymes in their nails that can actually heal something in the human body. We don't even know. I know that about bee stings. So that cat might have came because he needed the energy of that cat claw. He killed the cats. Secondary, we need cats in the kingdom to kill the rat population. And now the rats are so overran, they have their feces all over everything. And people are eating the food that the rats were, defecating on all night long. I don't mean to be gross, but then all of a sudden, disease spreads through rats. We know that. And so then they have what they then labeled the worst, plague in history, the Black Plague, and they created immunizations to save us. And this is all from a king who got emotionally triggered and thought he knew better than the divine. That control, that's the other thing, is like if we go into that thought system, if things were different, then we're going to try to control reality in some sort of way and let it, instead of it just accepting this happened. Oh, there must be a reason the cat scratched me. Damn. Go out to your people like, the cat scratched me. I wonder what that means, and just really getting into this at a deep level. But then we have, immunizations and the thought system of immunizations. And I'm not going against that, but I'm just saying, like, maybe viruses and bacteria are cardio for our immune system. I mean, we don't know. But we do know one thing, that the world is extremely chaotic right now, and we have moved away from the divine orchestration that everything is perfect. In the way to really start to embody that and feel joy, peace, love, which is the fruits of the divine, is to start accepting. And so we can really transcend external. That's what awakening is about. Not fake woke, false positivity, none of that. Being awake is being in union with the divine. And the only way you can do that, especially through the example of the king, is to accept the divine has a purpose for everything. And the mindset shift that we can have is not, oh, if only this were different, if only I did this, if only she had done that, and looking at the external as a way to make us feel better. And that's why we're doing that. We're trying to, project that something should be different so we can feel better, instead of just getting to perfect peace with the acceptance of, why is the creator letting this happen? And start using your mind as a tool to just kind of adventure through perceptions that you could perceive, like I just did with the king analogy, and to get to perfect peace within yourself instead of projecting toxicity into the environment. That's why the world's crazy and chaotic. So you can see why I think this video is super important, because if we just get to acceptance, it has zero to do with just resignation and letting things be crap and not fighting. That's not it. The power comes from within. And if we don't have emotional and mental mastery and start shifting this stuff within ourselves, we are just contributing to the problem, period. I mean, I just want to make this example, and I'm not saying I'm left or right, but left, and it probably would happen if they're right, they've lost their minds. They're so triggered into fear and all of these things. We don't know. It could be one way or it could be the other. Who knows? Use your mind to say, so why would the creator let this happen? Because we're starting to see the lack of emotional mastery in people, and then we get triggered by their lack when it's just showing us our own. So confront your things, aka your reasons that you think things should be different, and start saying, instead of this should be different, why can't this change? Get into that. What is this trying to teach me? What is this for? What is the beauty of this? Our defaults are super negative and toxic because our defaults are the lower echelon of the emotional scale. We're trying to shift our defaults to be back to our inherent nature, which is joy, peace, love. And so we're going to use our mind as a tool, and we're going to start confronting those triggers in a different way by saying, what is this meant to teach me? Taking our power back and getting that energy efficiency of flow. And that's the real change, y'all. For real. So I don't mean to laugh because I still do it now to this freaking day. I probably could think of 3 times yesterday that I did it, but I immediately go to the new mindset and immediately the trigger goes away. It doesn't make it not suck. It does suck. I still get the little blips on the screen where I'm like, arr! And then I'm like, wait, no, don't contribute that way. So I hope this helps. I really, really want this for you, because the only thing you really want in the world is not money, and not a man, not a woman, not a better job, none of that. You want to feel better. And you think the having of those things, if it was only different, you would feel better. Well, let's take that power away and let's get into this energy efficiency where we can actually have change within ourselves first, right? And then pass that on to our neighbor. Love your neighbor as yourself. And then pass it on to the world. All right, so that's it for now. If you like the video, please like, share, subscribe. Take care.